race for the Democratic nomination. Either of these candidates could, at the end of the day, prevail. In a situation like that, where the delegate split is quite narrow, each voting precinct or each voting district, in this case congressional districts, becomes very, very important because that's how delegates are allotted, and at a close convention, it could matter. So we're watching situations like this all over the country. What's fascinating is the situation in New York City, where Barack Obama actually carried a number of congressional districts right in the heart of what should be Hillary Clinton's home turf, and did very, very well, particularly in African-American districts. This is not surprising. He's been polling 80, even 90% of the African-American votes in states around the country. And yet in Harlem, in a district that has a very large African-American population, as well as a significant white liberal population, Obama's finish was quite weak. He lost to Hillary Clinton by a significant amount district-wide, and they found a number of precincts, local voting districts, local voting precincts, where Barack Obama received zero, and I want to repeat that, 0 votes. And that never happens. It is an anomaly that made no sense. In fact, I believe there were roughly 60 voting precincts around New York City where Obama got 0 votes.
Again, and these were in some of the communities where there was an overwhelming African-American population.
Well, more than that, Amy, these are where neighboring precincts, literally the precinct, a mile down the road or, one subway stop up, had big, big votes for Obama. In fact, usually situations where he won. And when you start to look at this, you realize that something went very, very wrong. Nobody, I should say very few people at this point are making specific charges against anyone or saying, this happened for this reason. What people are saying, and I think it's the right thing to say at this point, is that we need to open up these machines, take a serious look at what happened in these precincts and get to the bottom of it. Because, again, in such a close race, you cannot have this sort of disenfranchisement. If it was an intentional act, this is a scandal of Florida levels. And if it was unintentional, then something needs to be done to make sure, first, that if the votes are there, that they are counted. Second, if somehow there was a mechanical glitch or a destruction of the record of these votes, then you do need to have revoting in those precincts. We cannot say to people in a race that is, again, this close, that, well, tough luck. We believe that you went to the polls to vote for Barack Obama, like a lot of people went to the polls in Florida to vote for Al Gore in 2000, but we're not going to count them. This is a serious issue, and it's not the only one around the country. There are a number of places around the U.S. where there have been concerns about challenges to problems with the voting in these primaries. And we tend to lose sight of that when you have this sort of rolling primary process that moves from state to state. We don't go back and take a look at whether everything was done right every place. But the fact of the matter is that New Mexico, which just this week announced its Super Tuesday results, had some really problematic situations. And over on the Republican side, in Washington state, the state party chairman shut down the count of the vote in the caucuses at a point where it looked like Mike Huckabee was going to overtake John McCain. We need to do some serious work to police this primary process and make sure that it is, in fact, a small d democratic process, and that states that organize and hold elections actually count every vote.
John Nichols, finally, you're associate editor of the Capital Times, the daily newspaper in Madison. It's just announced it'll stop the daily newspaper, the printing of the daily newspaper, April 26. What's happened?
Well, that's a really great question, Amy, and one we could probably devote a good portion of the show to. The Capital Times was founded in 1917 as a progressive daily newspaper, and the choice has been made to begin publishing all online with 2 weekly magazines, one a journal of opinion, one an entertainment journal associated with it. And I was heartened at the start of your report today to hear that Fidel Castro made his announcement of the big changes in his tenure and his position online. It is our sense that that there's a great transition going on in America, and that journalism will play out to a much greater extent digitally than in print. And we'll still do some print in Madison, but increasingly we will move our reporters, local and state, over to doing online work. It's a great experiment, and I can't promise you exactly where it's going to go or how well every bit of it will work. But I do think that this is where you will see a lot of newspapers go, and it's going to be a tough one. I'm very kind of personally, romantically, if you will, attached to the print page, and I also am concerned about all the aspects of this transition. But something tells me that it's likely that most of us print journalists are going to retire working in a digital setting, and I am pleased that the Cap Times is actually kind of going there first and hopefully trying to do so in a way that produces some quality progressive journalism.
John Nichols, I want to thank you for being with us, Associate Editor of the Capital Times, the daily newspaper, at least for now, in Madison, Wisconsin, also writes for The Nation. He was speaking to us from Madison, Wisconsin, where voters are going to the polls today. And we go international to Pakistan, where voters are also active. They've handed President